All right, Coach. You can just start with your opening statement, just wrapping up, this past road trip that we had, and then just you guys just focusing going into this weekend, with this matchup in Dallas.
Yeah, not the road trip that we wanted for sure. Definitely not the outcomes. I think sometimes, in sports, you're going to play well and still lose games. I think that's part of the way sports are. But I was just disappointed in the way we played. So, those are the things that you want to try to get corrected, especially early in the season. But it's going to be it's going to be a process. I think when you get off to a 6-0 start, everybody's really excited, and I think everybody's mindset that you're going to go 30-0, and you play to do that for sure. But I think realistically, I know that this is still going to be a process. We're going to have our ups and our downs, especially on the road. We just not know how hard it is to win on the road, and with travel and all those things, and just learning how to win on the road. It's not easy. It's tough. When you're at home, you're comfortable. You got your crowd. Adversity is not quite as strenuous, and so I think we were very blessed to play our first 4 games at home, and then have the 2 neutral games. So I think that really helped us get comfortable and get off to a good start. But just overall, again, I think it's just a day-to-day process for this team, and we just got to continue to work hard and get better.
Obviously, these 2 back-to-back games are first losses of the season, the first time you guys were really tried. Just what do you think you've learned about this group, seeing them go through adversity for the first time?
Well, I thought early in the year when we were in practice, we had times of adversity and we didn't handle them great. And then I thought that was something that we strived to get better at, and we did. And, Kelly, I think what really happened was then we had some success. And, sometimes, I've said this probably 10 times before, but sometimes how you handle success is as important as how you handle failure or adversity. And so I'm just trying to learn how to handle that success, and I'm a very experienced coach. I've been there and done that. And so, our practices when we got back from Cancun, they weren't quite as crisp as they had been. And, I saw a little bit of some of that coming. It's hard to explain when you're a coach, but, you try really, really hard to prevent it. And sometimes it just happens. And you have to learn. You always want to learn by winning, but sometimes it takes a loss to learn. And hopefully our guys, figured some of those things out, and how to go to practice and work hard. We got away from, Kelly, who we were and what we do well. And, we didn't guard with the same intensity level as we had. The South Alabama game, they have a really good team, and it's hard playing against someone that, runs 40 minutes of zone. I thought we executed against the zone very well and got great shots. But that wasn't the reason that we lost that game. We lost that game because we didn't defend at a high level. And so, we went to Abilene on Saturday, and we kind of did the same thing. We didn't execute as well offensively in that game, but we didn't guard the way that we were used to. I mean, we gave them 50% in the second half or 50% for the game, and that's just not our type of team. So we just had to come back this week and get back to the drawing board. We've had some really good practices the first 2 days. We're going to take today off, and then we'll come in tomorrow and we'll start preparing for Tulsa. We'll see on Saturday if we've going to get back to ourselves and have figured out some things, because we'll have to guard against a really good team. Tulsa will be the best team that we've played so far. They're a really good team. And so, we're going to have to be able to defend. But we have a lot of good teams coming up. Sam Houston's a really good team, and, we're going to have to guard against them. So, our identity as a team, I think our guys understand that. But it's not easy. It's not easy to have to go out and play defense for 40 minutes every time out. And so, if you want to have success, I think our guys know that's what they got to do.
What about Tulsa stands out to you particularly that you guys need to stop?
Yeah, just really talented. I mean, they've got a lot of really good players. They're very talented. There's a guy or two on that team that we've recruited and, you know, saw up front and in person, and we know how good they are. Yeah, I just think they have a good team. They're well coached. They're tough. They've got a couple of really good players individually, and you know, it'll be a challenge for sure. Tough game.
Does it change anything? Just it's another neutral court game. Does that factor in just not having to go to their house, I guess?
Well, I think, you know, that's why you play neutral games, because both parties can't agree to go to one place or the other. You know, I at the time I felt like we had plenty of road games already, and I wasn't willing to go to Tulsa. And not to mention, I went to Tulsa 2 years ago, so, you know, I pretty much just kind of told them that if they didn't come here, you know, I wasn't going to play. And you know, and he was like, well, what about playing maybe in Dallas? You know, and the good thing about neutral games is, you know, no different than the game in Houston the other day. You know, we have alumni there, and I thought it was a great trip. You know, Joe got to go to Houston, and, you know, he and Chet went to Houston and met with some of our donors. And, you know, it'll be the same thing this weekend. We have, I think, even twice as many in Dallas. And, you know, so there'll be a lot of those people that may not necessarily always get to come to Las Cruces to watch us play. And that'll give them a great chance to see us, and then also give Joe another chance to, you know, to go and visit with some people and some donors. And so I think that'll be good. You know, and this will be a cool game for Joe. I mean, he just came from Tulsa, and we played him in football this year, and, you know, I think he knows a lot of the coaches, I'm sure, and the players. And so, you know, I think it's just it'll be a really good game. But I think more importantly than anything, it's a great opponent that's going to really help our team get better.
Just that 8 games into the season, what is it that you like about your squad, and what areas of improvement do you want to see?
I think probably the thing I've liked to see is that when we play the way we need to play, and we play well, I think we're a good team, and we have a pretty good ceiling. The thing that we have to improve on is just a level of consistency, right? I mean, we've shown that when we play good, like we did against Sanford, Cal Irvine, and New Mexico, that we can beat anybody. But then we've shown that, you know, if we don't focus and do what we need to do defensively, that we also can lose. And, you know, I think last year the difference in this team and that team was there were a lot of nights last year where we could play our best and we might not still win because we didn't have maybe a tool or a weapon here or there. But I think we have a little more of that. You know, I know, talking to, you know, a lot of my buddies that are coaches that have watched us play, and, you know, they say that we definitely look more talented than we were last year. And so, you know, from a coaching standpoint, you know, I think that's what you want, right? But talent doesn't always win. You know, we've got to still be solid. We've got to be consistent. We have to guard. We have to be tough. You know, I was disappointed also that maybe the last 2 games we got out-toughed. And I think South Alabama out-toughed us, and I think Abilene out-toughed us. And, you know, that's not usually the DNA of my teams, our teams. And so we just have to get back to who we are.
That talent's gap that you talked about between last year and this year, how much better do you feel like you guys got there? Where have you seen that affected the most on the court where you guys play?
I just think overall, I mean, you know, I think we have some guys that maybe on any given night can score, you know, can go and put up some points. You know, we didn't have a guy last year like Jalen Randall coming off the bench who could arguably average double figures. You know, we didn't have, you know, a guy like Elijah to come off the bench last year, you know. I think some of the guys that we felt like would be consistent right now and give us what they're giving us are doing that. You know, we just need to get others more consistent. You know, even our guys that are coming off the bench right now, they were great against South Alabama, and then Saturday they weren't as great. So, like I told them, you know, we're a team that really has, in my opinion, maybe 10 different guys that could be starters right now. You know, if you look at our inside players right now, I mean, Augustine and Sear are both playing about the same amount of minutes, and their production is really about the same right now. They're both averaging right around 4 or 5 rebounds, 4 or 5 points. So, you know, at what point in our season and when it'll happen, will some guys start to get some separation from others, whether it's, another guy maybe now stepping up and averaging 8 a game and getting 5 or 6 rebounds, which in essence will make us play them more. I think we're there. We're not there yet. We're not like giving ourselves any of that separation, right? Like, is Jalen going to step up and be consistent to where we have to stick him in the starting lineup? So we're just still not quite there with that. And again, sometimes, 11 new guys, guys got to try to figure some things out, and again, just try to get to a level of consistency on a daily basis.
What has Jalen been like for you guys off the bench? Do you feel like he can work his way into the starting lineup in the future?
Yeah, I mean, he had a great offensive game against South Alabama, and so he's had some really good games, and there's some analytics out there that when he's in our lineup, that we're in a positive. So I'm very pleased with him. I'd like to see him be more consistent, and on both ends. I think that's the other thing too, Nick, is everybody kind of has their different strength, but right now collectively we need to all get better defensively. I think our team defense has been pretty good. We just have some guys that individually they need to get better defensively, whether that's learning their assignment, learning the scouting report, or also just physically being able to guard their person one-on-one. We need more of that. We need guys to be able to guard the ball better, and then, the scouting report is a big thing. Like you gotta understand that's important. You gotta learn the scouting report. You gotta learn, the strengths and the weaknesses of the person you're guarding or multiple people that you could guard. And then just being tough. Sometimes if you've been in a program before, prior to being here, and those expectations weren't the same, like you weren't asked to come in every day and work hard. You weren't asked to come in every single game and play the best defense you could possibly play. Our guys are still learning that. They're learning that I'm not going to give in. Every day they come in, my expectation is that we're going to be the best defensive team on the floor. And so we still have a few guys that are, I don't want to say fighting that. I just think they're willing. It's just taking some time to learn that. And I think you saw that on this last road trip. We had a few guys that didn't perform defensively as well as they had been. And, regardless if you're 6-0 or not, we were trying to get to 8-0. And so now we're 6-2, and on Saturday we're going to try to get to 7-2.
Just kind of a generic question. This game's important for you guys to clean things up and against arguably your toughest opponent of the year, but it's also your last game before you start conference, which is earlier than last year, if I recall. You guys didn't start CUSA play until January. So just how that adds a little more pressure possibly to this game, and just your overall thoughts starting off CUSA play a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I think last year, we only had 18 conference games. We went to 20 this year. Everybody had an option to kind of move that game around, that first game. The next 2 games were locked in, and they weren't going to let us touch those. But the first game, they were going to let us kind of massage it and move it a little. And Coach Mudge and I, we agreed that we wanted to play this game before the break. We didn't want to have 5 days off in Christmas and then come back and our first game be each other. And then also, if you came back and played each other on the 28th or the 29th, then you're turning around and you're playing again on the 2nd. So that was going to give you 3 days, 3 games in the first week of conference. And that's not smart. So we both agreed on this date. I think he has a game. We originally had a game for tonight. It didn't work out. And then I think he has a game. I'm sorry, my fault. We had a game scheduled for next Wednesday. And I think he does. I think he plays next Wednesday. So, it just was the perfect fit. Timing-wise, it's we don't have our students here. It's the game before Christmas. It's not the perfect timing for sure. But, at the same time, if we play well and, we can be fortunate to get off to a great start for going home for Christmas, it's got to put a good taste in your mouth for sure. This game this weekend to me, it's an important game for sure. I don't really at this time of the year. I know the first net rankings came out, and I know everybody was texting and tweeting how we were like number 70, and I think that was the highest that may be one of the highest that we've ever had here at New Mexico State. But in all honesty, I haven't even looked at the net rankings. I don't even know what our net ranking is right now. I know, you know, that game on Saturday, I think they're probably really low, and so that game on Saturday would really help our net, but that's just not something that I really look at. I'm more caught up in just trying to get our team better and trying to figure out, you know, the reason that we didn't play the way we needed to those last 2 games, and just really trying to help these guys grow and try to improve. So, yeah, I wouldn't say there's pressure on this game. I just think it's another great basketball game. And, you know, although we didn't get a Power 5 on our schedule, if you look at our schedule, man, our schedule is really good. I think at the end of the year, that Sanford win will mean a lot. I think at the end of the year, that Cal Irvine game is going to mean a lot. You know, even the game at Abilene, you know, it's a road game. The game with South Alabama, I think they'll win the Sun Belt. So we've played a tremendous schedule, and then Tulsa, I think, will be one of the top teams in the AC. So I'm excited, looking forward to the challenge, and just looking forward for us to kind of come back and, you know, bounce back and play better. Good.
Obviously, just a tough stretch for you guys. Not even stretch, just past 2 games after a really hot start. Just during this adversity, where do you think you guys have grown closer as a team and just learned about yourselves?
Yeah, like you said, I feel like it's just a tough stretch, but I feel like we needed it in a way, because sometimes, you know, you get a little too high, and like all the coaches, and especially Coach Huton always says, you want to be playing your best basketball in March. So we'd prefer to lose now than later in the season in February, March. So just kind of talking about going back to the basics, what made us win, and that's kind of what we went away from when we went on the road and we dropped the 2 games. So I feel like just coming into practice with a different mindset and just going back to the basics, what made us win, especially on the defensive end.
Defensively in both those games, it wasn't the best defensive games for you guys. And when Huton came in here, he said you guys got out-toughed in both those games as well.
Yeah.
How do you guys try to rebound and play their defense and show more toughness against Tulsa?
Yeah, I would just say honestly practice. Like we had 2 good practice Monday, Tuesday, and then just do the same thing for the rest of the week, because that's the best way you prepare is at practice. So I feel like just going hard and competing as hard as we can, because if we compete in practice, then it's just going to make the game much easier.
Has there been any difficulty in this last few weeks? You guys aren't playing home games. You guys are playing neutral sites and road games. Has there been any like big challenges with that, or is it fun for you guys?
Yeah, I would say maybe a little bit. You know, after having a fan base like we do, playing 6 games at home and then playing 4 games at home and then going on the road is always a little tough playing without fans. But that's the adversity, and like Coach always says, if you want to be a good team and a championship team, you got to win on the road. So we just got to get over that hump and get back on the winning side.
Going to be playing against a Tulsa team that's probably 8 wins already for them on the season. One of the better teams you're going to play this year for you guys. Just how do you approach a game like that?
I feel like kind of any other game, but I guess you just have a little extra focus, because you know that, you know, we just lost 2 games and we're going into probably the hardest game of the season, and it would mean a lot to everyone for us to win, and it could get us in the right direction. So just a lot of focus on winning that basketball game, because yeah, we just lost 2 in a row, so then there's a big chance for us to bounce back versus a really good team that could give us a lot of confidence.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.